his left, Jess on his right. Hey, hold up, don't start a fight. He's got you covered with all the sports. Don't fret, he's wearing shorts. It's time for Waking Jake in the morning, Waking Jake at night. Jake sucks.
Woo! Good morning, Bakers. Welcome to Wake and Jake. A big one today because we kind of got a bonus part because we had the NFL trade deadline that actually turned out to be something. Good for you, NFL. Like when things become a thing.
Yeah.
Why not?
That was kind of the one thing NFL was sort of missing, and we'll get there.
We'll get there. Let's do World Series quick and then deadline, and then we'll preview NFL Week 9. For the World Series, the Phillies and Astros are still playing. We just did a great Talking Baseball episode on the one game that was missed. The story all around it was the pitch tipping. Interesting to hear now Jerry, Trevor, and the John Boy's opinions on it. I know we got two ball players and a guy that gets in the tape more than anyone. Trev and John kind of came in hot with, I think if they had to cast a vote for pitch tipping, Trev's vote would have been no. Jim would have looked for something else on the ballot to put as a maybe. And I think Jerry at the time, and I would love to know where he's at now, and maybe we can ask him in a little bit. He's going to be floating around the office today. We all kind of assumed, because we were doing our live stream, and he was getting rocked, and the Twitter started running with it, that there was pitch tipping. I think my answer landed out in cop-out range, which isn't good for that best hot take off the top of your head segment that we've been thinking about doing. That's a joke. That I think Harper and the Phillies probably thought they kind of had something. The leg kick is the safest bet, or it's something in the facial expression. We heard, sometimes the pitchers, that front-facing camera angle that we get, once or twice a game where you see the pitcher shaking or saying no or yes or whatever. Sometimes there's a lot of tells there, whether it's glove up, glove down, whether it's just literally the breath. Like there's been pitchers that take a heavy breath before throwing a fastball, and that's the giveaway. So I think the Phillies had a little something. I don't know if it was the main course. The Brandon Marsh homer, that was a homer in two ballparks, Citizens Bank and Yankee Stadium. So that one had a little bit of funk to it. I mean, McCullers didn't look great either way. The Schwarber one he got beat on, and that's Kyle Schwarber becoming an October legend. Harper was a middle pitch that Bryce Harper does not miss, and if he had a little bit of a tip, I mean, that's how easy he made it look. So that would make sense. And then the Reese homer, I don't think he should have been out there for. He probably should not have been in the game at that point after giving up the homer to Schwarbs. Not necessarily a tanker job, along with Bohm, and the Bohm one is the one that throws everyone off. That's the one that has Jimmy wanting to check that maybe box. It's the one that has Trevor hitting the no box, because Bohm is leading off the second inning, and it's a sinker in. Harper got a curveball. We're talking wind up and stretch, which that's a big difference. And Bohm just puts a good swing on it. It gets out on a line. I don't know. I think the answer, per usual, lands somewhere in the middle. Trev, he's still pretty connected to the Phillies org. He said that he thinks after the World Series, guys will tell him something, and he just doesn't know if the something is a minor pitch tipping thing, or maybe it could still be a major one. They set the MLB record for most home runs in a World Series game, or off of one pitcher. Most home
runs in the first two innings?
In the first two innings. Like, this was a record-setting World Series game. The 1,000th World Series home run. Massive. And Trev believes in this, so I'm going to believe in it a little bit, that he thinks, the Phillies are high T. They are high energy. They are masculinity. Like, we're bad dudes. He thinks a chunk of it was McCullers didn't have his A stuff and the boys bopped. I don't know. I think there's more to it than that, especially the way Harper was acting. For him, if we find out that he was full theatrics, like I was fairly confident that Framber, a lot of what he was doing is theatrics to a degree. I do think he was getting sweat or rosin for the ball. I don't think he was using spider tack or a cheating material. Could be wrong. I think his theatrics were playing up to it, but there was a ton of theatrics for him. Framber is theatrics. After every pitch, he's either squatting or smiling or silly face or whatever it is. For Harper to hit a home run, pimp it, tell the hitting coach and Bohm and anyone that would listen to him,
It calls him over.
pretend, if he was doing all of that to pretend he has a tip and just be putting on theatrics, I mean, that would be hanging in the Louvre. Like, I don't know. Because hitting a baseball is really hard, and those guys hitting, World Series breaking amount of home runs just doesn't seem like it was clean. McCullers, who's pitched in a lot of big games, his stuff didn't look great. His changeup actually looked kind of like his best pitch as the game developed. And who knows if that was part of the pitch tipping? Who knows if that was part of the game plan to throw more changeups? But Lance McCullers, man, there was a weird part of me after the game that felt a little bad. I know Yankee fans, they have the Andy Pettitte, was it Game 6 versus the Diamondbacks where he was tipping his pitches, and that still haunts him. Tipping pitches, I was emptying my heart to Jerry Blevins after the stream. It doesn't hit the same chord with me as it does with a lot of baseball fans. The internet was running hot, and there's a lot of guys that made living off of pitch tipping. And anytime we hear a Carlos Beltran story, got one last night from Jerry, that was a pitcher, whenever he would throw his curveball, he would just drop his arm a little bit more, and like you could see it behind his leg.
Was it like a blow above the belt or something
type
deal?
It was a lefty, and it would just be behind, like he would just basically
whether can see it or not.
He would have the glove out and reach his arm back, and for the curveball, you'd be able to see the ball like behind his knee, and for a fastball, you wouldn't be. And so Carlos Beltran, who's a weird tie to all of baseball right now, he was kind of the big dude in the whole Houston thing that gets overlooked a little bit.
At least according to everybody who is trying to put it on someone.
Little column A, little column B. But it's one of those funny things that I don't think it should be shots fired at Carlos Beltran, because he had what basically is a Hall of Fame career. But I think a lot of the times Carlos Beltran, taken out of context, knew what was coming. And that's just not how it sounds really dumb because I didn't play a lot of high-level baseball, but I just didn't view baseball through that scope. But we've now seen it in so many big games. If they have a tip on the pitcher or think they have a tip on the pitcher, we know that so many guys, the starting pitching's job in the dugout, we make fun of the starting pitchers a lot, but a big part of their job is to observe every pitch and see if they see something. And there's a ton of guys who are like Carlos Beltran. There's now front office positions that are scouting to see if they can pick up small different hints, tips, tricks, or codes. Used to read a lot of those video game online websites growing up. That it is a massive thing in baseball. It just doesn't strike the same chord at me as like a way to win. And so Jerry, I told him that last night, and he said, what about when like a runner's on second and they're picking up the pitch sequences or they can see in the glove? I like that. I like that part of it. Like, I guess there's something about the pitcher, and maybe this is just me being soft. There's something about the pitcher not knowing what he's doing and getting beat on it that doesn't feel right. But at the same time, when you're a hitter trying to do the toughest thing in sports, I absolutely get it. So,
and like every team's got the guys looking at another team and looking at their own guys. to try to quell any tipping. But there's just also just a part of me, I think this is in agreement with you, that it kind of just doesn't sit great with me. It's just like every time come the playoffs, like every time there's just a bad start, everyone jumps to that.
It's becoming an annual playoff story, and I guess I don't necessarily love that. But it is a massive part of the game. It's never going to leave. I mean, every hitter, as long as the game goes on, we'll try to figure out some way, because I don't know. At the same time, if I was facing a pitcher, and I remember when young Davy Garcia came up and they said his release point on his curveball was higher, like if I was a hitter and I could tell that, I like that. Like that's reading the pitcher. I guess tipping pitches with a knee lift or a hand raise or something like that, it's absolutely a game to win. And I don't dislike it. I guess I dislike the narratives that can come from it. And it's just, it's a little bit of a Jakey blind spot. Not that that's anything, but Phillies roll. Their offense looks unstoppable. They also got shut out by Ranger Suarez in the Phillies pen. We'll see going forward. I mean, the Phillies offense right now looks so good to shut them down enough over would be the next 4 games. Astros have to win the next 3 out of 4, right?
Yeah.
Is my math right there? It doesn't feel that way right now. It doesn't feel that way right now. So we will see. I mean, Houston, Javier goes tonight, Verlander tomorrow. If those guys throw up zeros like they can, you're heading back to Houston feeling good. Peter Moylan said it early on in the playoffs. I asked him, because Peter Moylan, for the silly kookaburra he can be, and I don't like saying that word, his answer will let you know. He will give you a deep dive analysis, or he will give you the silly, you can't explain sports analysis. And Peter Moylan gave the Phillies have the juice, and they've had the juice. Jim? Oh, it's sudden death. It was always sudden death. Get ready for some gaming content coming from John Boy and Joe's McFly. Ad there, I guess. John Boy, Joe's McFly. Gaming content. Go check out JM Gaming.
There's some other videos on that channel that aren't there. Those two.
If you have no idea, we've been putting a ton of stuff out there. Golf, Jeopardy.
Some Mario Kart stuff's coming. A lot of Madden.
So, Jane, that's right.
Had to give Justin the smoke this week.
Oops. And speaking of